Okay, so the next problem we're going to look at is exercise number 3. And we're going to start by drawing the base model, and we're going to be doing our first configuration. So our first part here on the base model has a square, if you would, center hole going all the way through. We can kind of see it peeking through on the isometric view there. But as we look here, it's going to be this part that goes through. There is this counter bore, and then we've got 4 bosses with with the threaded holes on the inside. Okay, they are on a bolt circle, so I'll be showing you how you tie those to a bolt circle so that they remain on there. And if that bolt circle changes, then it'll change along with it, the position of those bosses. Now, as we look at our configurations, the first configuration is going to change the square hole to a hexagon. Okay, I'll show you how to do that. That is a little bit different than the way that we did it on the other one. So this is going to be something that, because it's a feature, I'll show you how we can suppress it and then pull the new one in. Suppress on like the other ones and then pull the new one in. And then the second configuration is going to be changing the number of bosses on that bolt hole pattern. Okay, so let's start with our default here. And go over. We're going to start now. Again, I started a new file. I'm in millimeters. Okay. So extrude boss face. I'm going to use my top view here on my top plane. Circle at the origin. And I'm going to smart dimension. And this is going to be a diameter of 150. There we go. I did it on the top plane. And I'm extruding just the whole solid, and this is going to be 50 millimeter blind extrude. There we go. And we'll call that rename, just I guess base. That's my go-to for that for the first feature. So we've got the outside of the part here. Now I'm going to add the counter bore. Okay, that counter bore is a diameter of 80. And it's going to be a depth of 25. So I'm going to do an extrude cut on the top surface, another circle inside here, sharing that same center as the origin. I'm going to do that as an 80 millimeter diameter. And I went in underneath the extrude cut. So I'm going to exit my sketch. It's fully defined. And this is going to be a blind for a depth of 25 millimeters. So it doesn't go all the way through. It just goes a depth of 25 blind. And then, okay. So this is going to be my counter bore. There we go. Expand each one of those sketches so we can see that we're fully defined. Not a bad time to do a part. Save as, and this is going to be exercise 3. Go. Now, as we look at our part underneath, we're now going to add a square hole on the center. That's what I'm going to add. So I'm going to go back over here. This is going to be another extrude cut. I'm going to do it on this surface right here, the bottom of the counter bore. And we are going to add, instead of a rectangle, we're going to add a polygon, okay? But the polygon is going to have 4 sides, all right? So I'm going to click on polygon. And we're going to change our parameters to, this is the number of sides. We want it to be 4 sides, an inscribed circle, okay? You'll see an inscribed circle in just a bit. I'm going to go over to the origin. Once it activates its orange point, I'm going to left click, and now I'm going to have this rectangle or this square on my end. Don't worry about it being straight, just kind of put it in here, okay? And then we're going to hit okay. Now, because that inscribed circle is there, I'm going to smart dimension to the circle, and that diameter is going to be 45, okay? Because that's going to be the, if you would, across the flats of the square. And then I do need to add a relation because right now it's not fully defined. I'm going to go up to add a relation for that one, for a line, horizontal line. I'm going to take this top one or the bottom one, and I want to make that horizontal. And then I'm going to hit OK. You could do one of the vertical lines and make it vertical. All right, either one. We just have to add that relation. Left click out, and now you're fully defined. So polygon, 4 sides, go to the center, inscribed circle, 45, and then a horizontal on one of the sides. And then we can hit exit. We went in underneath an extrude cut, and we want to change this from blind to through all, so that in case that thickness changes, it's always going to go through. Okay, so it's in there. So now I'm going to rename this as square hole. And I can expand it out and see that it's fully defined and do a file save. Okay. The next feature we're going to add is going to be one of these bosses that are coming up. Okay, so we're gonna put the boss in place. Now we're gonna put it on a bolt circle, which is 115 millimeters in diameter. And from horizontal, it's gonna be 45 degrees. So we're gonna place that first one. Okay, so I'm gonna show you how to do that so it ties to the bolt circle. So the first thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna do an extrude boss base on the top surface. And we are going to first put in our bolt hole circle. So we're going to add just a regular circle from the center, and it's going to go right about here-ish, okay? And we are going to click on the option on the left for construction, and then we're going to hit OK. And what you're going to notice, if you click off of this, this goes to a center line looking line. Now, if you didn't do that, simply left click on it, left click on the circle, and then this same menu is going to come up on the dialog box on the side. Just click for construction. So you can either do it when you actually make it, or you can go back and you can change it after it's there. Okay. And then now we're going to add a smart dimension to that, and that is going to be 115 millimeters in diameter. Okay. Then what we're going to do is we're going to add the boss on that circle, and we're going to put it right about here. So we are going to add a circle. We're going to activate that bolt circle, and so that our center is going to be on that bolt circle. And I'm just going to draw a circle, smart dimension, and it's going to be to 20 millimeters. Okay. Now it's not fully defined because yes, it's on the bolt circle, but in space, it doesn't know where it's at. So the other thing that we need to add is we are going to add 2 construction lines, but we're going to put it in as regular lines first, and we're going to change them to construction lines. So I'm going to click on the line command. I'm going to click on the center of that hole and then to the origin. And then I'm going to do another line that's going to be horizontal, and it's going to go out past our circle. Okay. And then I'm going to hit escape to end that line. Now I need to make both of these construction lines, okay? Because they're not regular lines. I'm going to left click on the first one. I'm going to hit control and hold it. And then I'm going to click the other one so that I have both of them selected. Now it's going to go into where it wants to add some relations, but I want to go all the way down to the bottom here and simply click for construction. And now you're going to notice that they switch over. If I hit OK here, they're now those center line looking lines. Now I put these in there so that I can add the 45 degrees. So I'm going to smart dimension from this line to that line and kind of go out. And that's going to be 45 degrees. And now your circle will go along that line. And with that, you should be fully defined. Okay. Now, because those lines are for construction, they are not going to they're not going to like extrude or anything. That's why we identified them as for construction. Okay, so I'm fully defined. I can exit my sketch. And now I need to identify how tall that boss is going to be. And that boss is going to be 15 millimeters. So make sure it's set to blind and then 15 millimeters. Whoopsie, not 150. That would be really tall. 15. There we go. All right. And we've got that in place. So I'm going to call this rename circular boss. Yes. So there's that. I'll do a quick file save. Let's look. Now at the base of that circular boss, there's a little radius here, and that's a fillet. So we're going to add that fillet right away. It's a radius of 2.5. So I'm going to go to fillet and make sure that you get the edge, not the surface, the edge. Okay. It's a big fillet, but we're going to change that radius to 2.5. And I like to rename the fillet. See, rename, go to the front, and I'm going to say 2.5 millimeter fillet. There it is. Okay. And then the last thing we're going to put in there is going to be the threaded hole. So if we look underneath, the thread call out is a 12 by 1.5. Okay, a 12 by 1.5. So we're going to go back to SolidWorks. We're going to use the hole wizard. The type is going to be a tapped hole. It's going to be a straight tap, and it's going to be an ANSI metric. And then we're going to go down to 12 by 1.5. M12 by 1.5. M12 just means that the nominal size of the outside of your thread is 12 millimeters. And then the 1.5 is that there's 1.5 threads. I'm sorry, no, 1.5 millimeters between each one of the threads. That's what it is. Okay, metric is a little bit different call out than inch or ANSI. ANSI, it gives you, after the dash number, it gives you how many threads there are per increment of inches, like how many threads would be in there. This one is, what is the distance between each one of the threads? So on an M12 by 1.5, it's 1.5 millimeters between the threads. And then we're going to be blind. And here, the tap drill of 10.5, which we don't have to specify, it's automatic, is going to be 28.5. And the thread is going to be 24. Okay, your tap drill will always be longer or deeper than your actual threads. And so that's already good for us. And then once we're ready here, we can do position. Do not hit 3D sketch, go right over to our model, and we are going to activate the center. Oh, I'm sorry. No, we have to select the face first. Sorry, select the face first, then activate the center so we can grab that center, and we're going to be concentric there. By clicking that center, notice down here, I'm fully defined because now I'm going to share the same center as the boss that I created earlier. And then I'm done. I only need that one. I can simply hit OK. And now my hole is positioned. So it's an M12 by 1.5. And I'm going to do a file save. Now, the reason that I did the boss, the fillet, and the thread all at once is because now I'm going to be adding the other 3 holes through a circular pattern. And we're going to be doing the boss, the thread, and the fillet all at once. Okay. So let's go back to SolidWorks and finish up that pattern. So don't have anything selected over here. We're going to be on our feature tab. We're going to go over to under linear pattern, go to circular pattern. Okay. Now direction, we just want to select one of the circles that shares the same center as where we want to be around. So whether it's the outside circle or the inside circle does not matter. I'm just going to pick the outside circle. Oopsie, sorry. Make sure your direction is selected, circle. So now it knows where the center is that it's going to go about. Then the next one here is going to be how far. So 360 degrees, we want to go the full circle. And how many instances do we want total, including the one that we have? We want 4. And then we're going to select down in features. And we're going to expand out our part on the screen. And we want the circular boss, the fillet, and the M12 by 1.5. All 3 of them. So you should see a preview then on the other 3. And then once you're like, yeah, that looks good, we're going to click OK. And there's your circular pattern. File, save. All right. Now this, oh, I've got one more feature to add. The last feature that I have is going to be the radius of 2.5 on that very top edge around our part. So I'm going to go back over here and I am going to add a fillet and I want to add it to the very top edge right here, 2.5. Good. Okay. And there we go. So file, save. This is our base part. This is our base part. So now we're gonna make a configuration from it. So if we look back at our part, the configuration we're gonna make is going to be configuration A, and we're gonna change from the square to the hexagon. Now, this is something that is different than the other configurations that we did. So if you're not with me right now, I want you to come back and follow along, because this is gonna be a part that, like I said, is just a little bit different. So we're just going to change this to a hexagon. So I'm going to go back to SolidWorks over here. Now, I am going to start this just like we did before. We're going to add a configuration on the configuration manager. We're going to left click on our exercise 3, right click, add configuration. Our configuration name is going to be config A. Description. Hex hole, I guess, and then enter or OK. So now I have a configuration A. It is activated with the green check mark in front. I'm going to go back to my part. OK. Now, if I try to go in, all right, now you don't do this right now. Just kind of watch what I'm going to do. I know that I want to change that square to a hex, and I did it on the sketch level here at my square hole. But if I tried to, what I have to do is I have to actually delete this out. If I were going to change the size of this same feature, I could do the configuration like I normally would and then do it for only that configuration. Let's say I was going from 45 to 50, right? But I'm actually changing the whole shape, which means that the configuration, there's not an option for when I delete something out and put it back in. It's only when I change an existing feature. So what we're going to do for this configuration instead, I'm going to exit out of this sketch. I'm going to select on that square hole, and we're going to right click, and we're going to say configure this feature. Okay. So the entire feature now, configure that feature. We want to suppress it in config A. So right here, this column right here is to suppress. We're not deleting it out. We've suppressed things before. It kind of grays it out. It's in the background. And for it to become available to us, it just has to be unsuppressed. So we don't want to get rid of it because we want it to be there for the default. So do not check or suppress it in the default. We just want to suppress it in configuration A. Okay. So I'm going to say apply and OK. And now you're going to notice that the square hole is here, but it's no longer shown and it's grayed out. Okay. Now I'm going to do a quick save. And I'm going to show you, if we go back to the configuration, let's click on the default. The square comes back because we did not suppress it on the default. We only suppressed it on config A. And now it goes away when we select that. You guys see that? Okay, so you know that you have it set up correctly. So now what we're going to do, we're going to go back over here, and on config A, we're going to add now the hexagon polygon hole through. Okay, so we're going to do an extrude cut on that surface. we're gonna go to polygon. We're gonna create this new one. We're gonna go to polygon. And it is going to be 6 sides. We're gonna say, okay. And make sure it's inscribed circle. Okay. Now we're gonna go over here. We're gonna click on the center and just kind of, kind of put it in place here-ish. Doesn't have to be perfectly straight or anything. We're gonna smart dimension that circle to be 45. Okay. And then the last thing that we're gonna do, we can hit okay here. We're gonna add a relation so that one of those lines is horizontal to the top here. So horizontal, there we go. And then now that sets the orientation. We know where it is in space. We know the size. We are fully defined. So again, polygon, 6 sides, inscribed circle. Okay. All right. And then do the horizontal relation for one of the sides. Now that I'm here, I can exit my sketch. And now I'm going to do a through all on that hexagon. So now I'm going to rename this. This is going to be a hexagon hole. There we go. And that is only on the configure or the config A. File, save. Okay. Now to test this, to see if it worked, we're going to go back to our configurations. We're going to click on our default and it should go back to the square hole. And we're going to go back to our config A and it should be the hexagon hole. All right. So now as we look, we've done the default or the base model. We did our config A. Now what you have left is you're going to change and you're going to do our config B so that now instead of having 4 of those bosses, you're going to have 6 bosses. Okay. Now for this one, you'll be able to change it inside of that circular pattern, but remember, assign it to only this configuration, which is going to be configuration B. Okay. So now when you hand in for this, you're going to have, again, 3 screenshots, 1 for the default, 1 for config A, and 1 for the additional config B that you're going to be adding. Okay, and then remember, always go back over here, expand out your items so that I can see that they're renamed and that everything is fully defined. Okay, so I think that's it. So I'm going to stop the recording.